Hey, what is up, y'all? Happy weekend. This is my last and final podcast in California, which is so crazy to think about. You know, when I started this podcast, I don't know, I guess I didn't think of, I didn't know when we were moving. So there's that. But yeah, it's such a bizarre thing. We're on our last week here. And so everything we do, honestly, it's like for the last couple weeks, everything we've done has been like, this is the last time we'll ever go to Pina. This is probably the last time we'll ever go to Berryessa. This is the last time we'll do this and that. And this is, this might be the last time we see this person for who knows how long. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, if the audio is weird, it's because I'm in a hotel room. But y'all get the idea. This is going to be a short, very low-key episode before we go out on the lake. But I wanted to give y'all something, and I wanted to talk about this before the train of thought left me. We are talking about generations, specifically boomers and like the old head Gen Xers and millennials, and why they are just so against millennials. One, having pets instead of kids. And two, treating their pets like kids. And I have a theory, okay? So I was talking to someone the other day, and don't ask me how, but furries got brought up. Which, how they even know about what that is beyond. I literally said, I'm like, how do you know what a furry is? And they're like, oh, well, this person told me. And I'm like, good Lord. And so, because they're older, they're a boomer. And, so we're talking, I think how it got started was how society had gone awry, who knows. And their friend, the one that told them about what a furry was, they're like a substitute teacher at the nearby high school. And they were telling them like, oh yeah, all these kids, they dress up as animals and they wear the cat and the dog collars, and there's litter boxes in the bathroom, and they have to be let out on breaks to go on walks and all this stuff, right? And the person I was talking to they just went on a tangent, right? And they're like, oh, it's so sad, it's so messed up, that's just the worst thing to happen, yada, yada, yada. And they went off on this tangent about how kids were furries because their parents didn't pay them enough attention. Because they're always on their phones and blah, blah, blah. Which honestly, I think indirectly they're not too far off on. Not that kids are intentionally doing this to prove a point or to directly get attention from their parents, but more so they have unresolved underlying things going on that their parents are avoiding or denying, whatever the case may be. But then this person I was talking to kind of went off the deep end, and they're like, yeah, they're dressing up as cats and dogs because they see their parents obsessing over animals and not kids, and they think this is the only way that they'll ever get love and attention. Because people don't want to have kids anymore, and they're only obsessing over their pets and treating the pets like kids, yada, yada, yada. Which I don't think is true. And I have a theory now about why that generation is so against people having strong emotional connections with animals. And I think it's because having a pet is arguably one of the most selfless things you can do. And it's one of the biggest shows of pure, unconditional love. Like, yes, Marshy and Deadmau5 bring a lot of joy and happiness to our household. Like, he makes me so just happy, just existing. But in the truest sense, he doesn't do anything, right? He ain't paying rent, he ain't cleaning, he's not taking himself to the vet, nothing. He's not necessarily contributing anything to the household in a technical sense. It's just pure unconditional love at its core. He doesn't only love me because I give him Cheetos, right? He doesn't only love me because I take him on walks. He just does. No matter what. There's zero transactional element of the relationship. It doesn't matter. Thanks, Marshy. I love you too. It doesn't matter if he's had a bad day, if I had a bad day, if I messed up, if he messed up. When I come home every single day without failure, I know that he will run up and say hi and just look so happy to see me. Always. No matter what. No matter what. And it's just I don't know. I think it's just a different mindset and a different focus from the previous generations back then. But back then, everything had to have a purpose. So, like, there's this one old archaic guy in the military I was talking to the other day. And animals got brought up, and he was very much like, why do you put a shirt on that thing? And they're just dogs, and why do you have to bring them inside? Yada, yada, yada. And he was like, if it's not a hunting dog, then why have it? Like, if they don't do anything, why have a dog? And he was like, that's the only way I would get a dog is if it was, if it was a hunting dog, then I would. But I'm not hunting right now, or whatever the case may be. So that's why I don't have a dog. And even just in a bigger sense too, everything had to have a purpose, right? So when you were choosing a career, you chose a job that made good money, not because you gave two shits about business or finance or management or corporate, but because that's where the money was. And so, like, that was just a means to an end. Everything had to have a purpose. Wives, you get married, why? Because they give you kids. Why do you have kids? Because it's free labor and they do things for you, and then they take care of you when you're older. Like, everything, nothing was just in the pure sense, like, I'm doing this because it brings me joy, because it brings me happiness. None of that. And my theory, like I said, is that boomers never knew how to give that true unconditional love to their children. Probably because they never got true unconditional love from their parents. But so that's why now they see their kids and their grandkids being able to do that. They're able to give that dog that true unconditional love. They're able to just love something just because it exists. And I think that boomers and the previous generations, they see this and they get subliminally defensive and they just reject it because they see what they could never provide for their family. Because they were never able to do that. They could never understand that. They never received that themselves. So they're like, no, it's fake. It's not good. Because it just doesn't make sense to them. Because otherwise, why would anyone be against it? You know what I mean? Like, yes, people can go overboard with their animals sometimes, absolutely. People also go overboard with sports and friends and spouses and kids and hobbies and work and literally every other aspect of life and existence in general. Someone somewhere is taking it too far. That's just what humans do. We just can't have anything nice. But who is it really hurting to put a cute bandana or a hat on your doggo? You know what I mean? Like, who is it really hurting to love your doggo and show that love on social media? Who is it really hurting to plan outings for your pet and get them their favorite foods to treat them or to celebrate their birthday? You know what I mean? I don't know. So that's just my theory. Because, again, as humans, we hate what we don't understand and we hate what we never received ourselves. Because, I mean, even in the military, we get all these people, these bitter middle tier supervisors and these people, and they're like, well, it was hard for me, so why should I make it easy for others? I had to struggle through it and I'm just fine. Or I struggled through it, I had a bad supervisor, I learned on my own, I had no turnover, no continuity, and that's how I learned and forged in fire and blah blah blah. So why would I make it easier for others? And I'm like, well, don't you wish someone had made it easier for you? Like, are you happy you struggled that much? Are you happy you're bitter now? Are you happy that you had no one to turn to? Yeah, just my theory though. And in regards to millennials, because this kind of was a twofer, like millennials just straight up not having kids and choosing to have pets instead, and then two, treating their pets like kids. But in regards to millennials just straight up choosing not to have kids for whatever reason, I feel like that could be its own episode entirely, honestly. But one, in this economy, let's be real, that's expensive. It straight up is. Like, people just can't afford it. I was looking at some stats and like 61% of millennials said the reason they weren't having kids right now / if ever was purely because of finances. I mean, that's why you can't buy a house. That's why you can't have kids. Like, it's too expensive to live right now. Just the general cost of living is insane. But the other thing too is like, I feel like the previous generation, when they hear, no, we're not going to have kids, we don't want to have kids, the generation is like, what? You mean you get a choice? Like that was an option the whole time? Like you don't have to be miserable and broke and burnt out because that's what we were told we were supposed to do? Like, you know what I mean? Millennials are breaking from that tradition, which is something that the other generations didn't even know was an option. They never had that choice. Also, they were trained, like I said, to find their value and fulfillment in others, in their job position, in their spouse, in their kids, not in themselves. Which, side note, I'm starting to think that's probably why so many of their relationships have gone so wrong with their kids, because they expected and demanded that their kids become their fulfillment. And so when that didn't happen, the parents ultimately lashed out on the kids because they're like, oh, I got the business job I was supposed to, and I have a wife and I had 12 kids. Why am I not happy? You know what I mean? Like, why do I not feel fulfilled? And then the kids, that's a lot of emotional burden to put on a kid. That's a lot of responsibility to put on anyone to say, make me happy. Make me feel fulfilled. Make my life worthwhile. That's a lot of pressure. And I mean, honestly, there's a million reasons why someone wouldn't want kids. And I think ultimately, like, long story short, the past generations just can't wrap their head around that fact. They just can't understand it. So that's my theory. And since it is Mother's Day, I've actually seen, just a side note to leave y'all with, I've seen a lot of things and people are like, oh, don't forget about the dog moms out there. They're moms too. Give them some love and appreciation on Mother's Day. And at first I was like, I don't know if that's too far or not. Like, I don't know. But then I was also thinking about it and I'm like, you know what? If it's an excuse for someone somewhere to be extra nice to somebody and give them a little gift and give them a compliment, why not? Again, who is it hurting? It's not hurting me. If someone else says, hey, other person, good job being a great doggo mom. Here's some brunch. Like I said, at first I was kind of iffy on it, but now, why not? You know what I mean? Why not? Like, if it's an excuse for someone to be a decent human being and tell someone something nice that'll maybe make their day, who am I to stop that type of happiness? You know what I mean? Let's go for it. We can't gatekeep holidays. That's just silly. So, if you're a mom out there, happy Mother's Day. If you are the eldest daughter with younger siblings, happy Mother's Day, because you also played a huge role in raising them and they look up to you like a mother. So, on behalf of all of your efforts, thank you. And if you're a doggo or a cat mom or any other pet mom, happy Mother's Day. Keep taking care of your pets and doing what you do best. And that is it for me. I'm going to go out on the water. Make good choices, be a decent human being, and I will catch y'all at some point soon, not next weekend because I'm going to be in a car driving forever, but I will catch y'all soon. Okay, bye!